The alchemy of adaptation, transforming literature into film ideas. Every great film begins with an image, but for over a century, some of our most enduring cinematic images didn't start in a viewfinder. They started as ink. Adaptation is often misunderstood as a simple process of translation, as if we are just moving furniture from a house called the novel into a house called the cinema. But the screen is a different beast entirely. It demands externalization. It demands that the internal monologue of a character be crushed, refined, and rebuilt into a physical action. Today, we aren't talking about how to copy a book. We're talking about how to pillage it. We're going to explore the architectural techniques used by master screenwriters to dismantle classic literature, works already in the public domain, and reconstruct them into fresh, cinematic visions. From the psychological weight of Russian drama to the atmospheric dread of Gothic horror, we will look at transposition, reversals, and the power of the self-contained scene. By the end of this, you won't just see a bookshelf. You'll see a library of blueprints waiting to be built. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss content like this. Now let's get into it. Method 1. The direct scene extraction. Case study. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. The most common mistake in adaptation is trying to fit the whole elephant of a novel into the fridge of a screenplay. Most classic novels are sprawling, episodic, and dense. To find a film idea within them, sometimes you have to stop looking at the map and start looking at a single room. This is the technique of direct scene extraction. You find one chapter, one sequence, that contains the DNA of the entire story, and you make that the movie. Tolstoy's masterpiece Anna Karenina is over 800 pages of social politics, agricultural philosophy, and tragic romance. It is intimidating. But buried in Part 2, Chapter 25, is one of the most cinematic sequences ever written, the Frou-Frou horse race. In this chapter, the dashing Count Vronsky, Anna's lover, participates in a high-stakes military horse race. On the surface, it's a sports sequence, but through the lens of a filmmaker, it's a psychological thriller. Instead of a 3-hour epic about Anna's divorce, imagine a 20-minute Tolstoy piece. The camera never leaves Vronsky. We focus on his vanity, his obsession with form over substance. In the book, Vronsky makes a slight, careless movement in the saddle. He inadvertently breaks the back of his horse, Frou-Frou. In a film adaptation, this is your climax. We move away from Tolstoy's prose and into the visceral, the rhythmic, deafening thud of hooves, the heavy, wet breathing of the animal, the muffled roar of the crowd that sounds like a heartbeat. Visually, we use tight, suffocating close-ups on Vronsky's eyes and the horse's straining muscles. We don't see the finish line, we feel the impending disaster. When the horse falls, and Vronsky stands up unhurt while his horse struggles in agony, the movie ends. Why? Because that one scene tells the entire story of Vronsky and Anna. His selfish passion eventually destroys the very thing he claims to love. By extracting this one scene, you've created a short story film that feels modern, focused, and devastating. You've used the book not as a script, but as an emotional resource. The objective correlative is the technique of using a physical object or event to represent an internal emotion. In this case, the horse race embodies Vronsky's moral failure. When adapting, don't look for dialogue. Look for actions that feel like the character's soul. Method 2. Transposition of time and setting. Case study. The Masque of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe. Once you've identified a story with a powerful core, the next question is, does it have to stay there? In creative writing, we call this transposition. It's the art of keeping the skeleton of a plot, the bones of the conflict, but changing the skin. You take the themes of a 19th century Gothic tale and transplant them into a corporate boardroom, a lunar colony, or a modern-day high school. When you change the setting, you often find that the stakes become even more relatable to a modern audience. Edgar Allan Poe's The Masque of the Red Death is the ultimate bottle movie. A prince and his wealthy friends lock themselves inside a fortified abbey to party, while a horrific plague ravages the peasants outside. It's atmospheric, it's colorful, and it's deeply cynical. Our approach, cyberpunk isolation. Instead of a medieval abbey, we transpose the story to a vertical city, a luxury penthouse at the top of a decaying, neon-lit metropolis. The Red Death is no longer just a plague. Perhaps it's a lethal digital virus that causes neural hemorrhaging, or a biological collapse in a world where the air itself has become a luxury. Prince Prospero is now a tech mogul, or a cult leader of the elite. Poe describes 7 rooms, each a different color. In a film, this becomes your production design. Imagine a strobe-lit rave where each zone represents a different sensory experience. Blue for peace, purple for passion, and finally, the black room with blood-red lighting where the Red Death eventually enters. We use the clock. In Poe's story, an ebony clock chiming every hour freezes the guests in terror. In our sci-fi transposition, this becomes a failing life support system, or a countdown to a system reboot that everyone knows will fail. This works because the core theme of The Masque of the Red Death isn't about the Middle Ages, it's about the arrogance of wealth. By moving it to a near-future setting, you highlight the divide between the protected elite and the expendable masses in a way that feels urgent and terrifyingly possible. Transposition isn't just a gimmick. It's a way to prove that human nature, fear, vanity, and the desire to escape death never truly changes, no matter what year it is on the calendar. Contextual mirroring is the process of finding functional equivalents. If a character in a classic story uses a horse to deliver a life-saving letter, the modern equivalent isn't just a car. It's a satellite uplink failing during a storm. You don't just change the object, you preserve the pressure the object creates. Method 3. The what-if and the reversal. Case study. The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Most adaptations follow the path the author paved, but as a creative, your most powerful tool is the question, what if they failed? Or what if we saw this through the eyes of the enemy? This is the reversal technique. It's not just a sequel, it's a fundamental reimagining of the story's outcome or perspective. It takes a world the audience already understands and subverts their expectations within the first 5 minutes. We all know the ending of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. The Martians arrive. They lay waste to Victorian England with heat rays and tripods. And just as humanity is doomed, the invaders die because of common Earth bacteria. It's a Deus ex machina ending. Nature saves the day. Our approach, the successful occupation. What if the Martians didn't die? What if they had an immune system or simply arrived better prepared? We jump forward 50 years. Earth is no longer ours. The atmosphere has been partially terraformed. The sky is a permanent crimson. We follow a scavenger, a human born into an occupied world, who views the towering tripods not as monsters, but as a natural, terrifying part of the landscape. We move from alien invasion action to found footage survival horror. Instead of a panoramic view of the war, the camera is small, shaky, and intimate. We see the world through the scavengers' eyes as they navigate the red weed jungles. In the original, humans are the protagonists trying to win. In our reversal, humans are the pests in the walls. The story becomes about a small, quiet mission, stealing a piece of alien tech rather than saving the world. This technique works because it utilizes pre-established lore. You don't have to spend 30 minutes explaining what a Martian tripod is. The audience already knows. That freed-up narrative real estate allows you to focus entirely on the new, gritty reality of your what-if scenario. By reversing the outcome, you aren't just retelling a story. You're colonizing a classic world with your own modern fears. In screenwriting, a deus ex machina is an unexpected power or event saving a seemingly hopeless situation. By removing it, the bacteria, you force your characters to find a human solution to a superhuman problem. This immediately increases the dramatic weight of your script. Method 4. Mood and perspective shifting. Case study: Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Most people remember Alice's Adventures in Wonderland as a kaleidoscope of nonsense, talking cats, smoking caterpillars, and mad hatters. It's the quintessential portal fantasy. But beneath the surface of Lewis Carroll's wordplay lies a deep, unsettling anxiety about growing up, losing logic, and the arbitrary nature of authority. When we use the perspective shifting technique, we don't change the events, we change the context. We take the wonder out of Wonderland and replace it with terror or psychological mystery. On the page, Alice falls down a rabbit hole into a magical kingdom. Our approach, the grounded allegory. What if the rabbit hole isn't a hole in the ground, but a dissociative break? What if Wonderland is the name of a high-security psychiatric ward or a labyrinthine, brutalist government facility? Alice is an unreliable narrator. She's not a Victorian girl in a dress. She's a modern protagonist navigating a surreal, bureaucratic nightmare. The White Rabbit is no longer a bunny with a watch. He's a twitchy, overworked hospital orderly who Alice is desperately chasing because he has her files. The Queen of Hearts is the cold, decapitation-obsessed head of medicine. Instead of bright colors, we use German expressionism, harsh shadows, impossible angles, and long, sterile corridors. Every mad conversation from the book is kept, but delivered with the chilling intensity of a trial. This works because it utilizes the uncanny. By taking the familiar nonsense of a childhood story and placing it in a grounded setting, you create cognitive dissonance in the audience. They know the lines, but the feeling is wrong. It transforms a fairy tale into a psychological thriller. When you shift the perspective, you aren't just adapting a book, you're psychoanalyzing it. You're asking, what was the author actually afraid of? And then you make the audience feel that fear too. In film, an unreliable narrator is a character whose telling of the story is not completely accurate due to mental state or bias. By shifting Alice's perspective, you allow the camera to show the magic while the subtext suggests a dark reality. This creates a double narrative that keeps the audience guessing until the final frame. Method 5. Character distillation and fusion. Case study: The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. On the page, an author has hundreds of pages to introduce a town's worth of people. But in film, time is your most expensive commodity. If a character doesn't drive the plot or provide a necessary foil to the protagonist, they are dead weight. The distillation technique involves taking the traits of 3 or 4 minor characters and melting them into one. This creates a more intense, personal conflict and keeps the audience's emotional investment focused. Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray is a philosophical exploration of aestheticism and moral rot. It has several Victorian gentlemen, high society ladies, and victims of Dorian's cruelty. Our approach, the influencer paradigm. To make this feel urgent, we move Dorian from a 19th century estate to the center of 21st century creator culture. Dorian isn't a socialite, he's a viral superstar. The portrait isn't a canvas hidden in an attic, it's a deepfake or a burner account. It's a digital avatar that he feeds with his scandals, while his public-facing profile remains eternally youthful, filtered, and perfect. In the book, Lord Henry Wotton is the mentor of vice, and Basil Hallward is the artist of the soul. In our film, we fuse them into one character, the manager. He is both the one who creates Dorian's image and the one who encourages his darkest impulses for the sake of engagement. The decay of the portrait is shown through digital glitches, corrupted data, and a distorted UI. As Dorian commits moral crimes in the real world, his digital avatar becomes a monstrous, unfiltered reflection of his true self. By merging the artist and the tempter, you create a singular, high-stakes relationship. The conflict isn't spread thin across a drawing room. It's concentrated into a toxic, codependent power struggle between a star and his creator. Cinema is the art of the close-up. By distilling your cast, you allow the camera to stay close to the hearts that matter. We've traveled from the 1800s to the edge of the future. We've turned dramas into thrillers and fairy tales into nightmares. The lesson is this: public domain literature is not a museum, it is a toolbox. The greats like Tolstoy, Poe, Wells, and Wilde didn't write these stories to be preserved in amber. They wrote them to explore the human condition. As a filmmaker, your duty isn't to the word on the page, it's to the ghost of the story. The part that haunts the reader after the book is closed. Whether you transpose the setting, reverse the ending, or distill the characters, your goal is to find that ghost and give it a body made of light, sound, and motion. Go to your bookshelf. Pick a story that has survived for 100 years. Now ask yourself, what happens if I break it? Build something new from the pieces. The screen is waiting. Whenever you break a story to adapt it, you must keep one anchor, a single theme that remains untouched. Vanity in Dorian Gray, or isolation in Poe. As long as the anchor holds, your adaptation will feel right to the audience, no matter how much you change the setting. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel. And if you want to explore more sources of ideas for filmmaking, along with deep dives into storytelling and filmmaking techniques, make sure to subscribe. More videos like this are coming soon.